Hello everyone, Dr. Watson here again. Time for another video. This time, as I promised, I'm going to show you the area of the NCES website where we can explore the NAEP data, the NAEP data on elementary and secondary education. And to get to that, we can start with the Surveys and Programs tab. And we can go to National Assessment of Educational Progress, which is the data collection tool we're going to be looking at. And right here you can, there's actually quite a lot of information here available about NAEP, just like there is for most of the instruments and data collection programs that are used here. When we're ready to go in, we can click on this and work with the data. We can click on this Data Tools tab. There are also, just like with the website in general, there are publications of products. Here are some publications and products specifically related to the National Assessment of Educational Progress. They do their own regular reports on all of these topics, and these are available here. I highly recommend that you look through this information as well as much else. I can't say it enough times. This website is full of valuable information to all of us educators at all levels. I'm going to go back. And right here, if you want to learn more about what NAEP is, you could click on this and find out more about the assessment. It's been given for a long time. It's considered one of the best standardized assessments. And it's the primary one that we use that's used nationally. A random sample of states are done every year, and then within those states, all the students at 4th, 8th, and 12th grade are assessed. I'm going to go back again. Okay, before we go into the data tools, I want to point out a feature down here towards the bottom, tools and applications. There's some really useful information here. They kind of break up the data in different ways, so you can go in and explore it in, I think, a very user-friendly and very intuitive fashion. If you click on the tools overview right here, and right down here you can get their mobile app if you want to. Okay, let's go up and click on Tools Overview. Right here, you can go over each button and you can see an explanation of what that particular feature will do. This one's very interesting. The questions tool, you can look up specific items, specific assessment items, and do an analysis basically of that, of one or more items to see how students did on that. As a teacher, if you teach at one of those grade levels or near one of those grade levels, 4th, 8th, and 12th grade, this might be an interesting exercise sometime to go in and look at items that correspond to your area and content that you teach, or maybe that you don't teach but maybe think that you should, and see how students nationwide are doing. You can also just pull students from Connecticut if you want to. Also item maps, state comparisons, state profiles, district profiles, and you can even test yourself on some items, which might be kind of cool too. But we're going to go and for our purposes right now, look in the Data Explorer. I'm not going to model each of these tools. You can go in and explore them on your own. You may find that within these or other features of other databases that I haven't gone into, that you may find more of what's interesting to you. And you really do need to explore in these because there's so much there. So we're going to go to the Data Explorer, which was, you can get to it right here, or you can get to it right here, which was the link that was on the first page, Data Tools. We're going to go in here, and there are 4 different options you have. The main NAEP area, analysis area, which we're going to go into, an area for long-term trends, going back to the 1970s, a high school transcript study information, and the National Indian Education Study. So we're going to go into the main NDE. And this one does not require a account or password to log in, but you do have to agree to terms. And then you can go in, and it starts pretty simply, like this. There are different links where you can go into, these are the same features that were highlighted out before: questions, comparisons, profiles for state and district. We're going to do kind of a simple examination right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm just randomly thought of a topic. And what I want to look at is 12th grade science scores. I'd like to look at a comparison between males and females, because we've had a lot of talk for a long time about performance gap and an interest gap in science, especially secondary and collegiate level science, that a lot of our girls drop out. They show interest early, but then they drop out, and there's been a lot of speculation and some research on why this is. So just out of curiosity, I want to look at those scores, those 12th grade science scores, compare them by gender, and then also see what we can add in to break that data up a little further in terms of instructional practices that are used in the classroom. NAEP is pretty cool because it's not perfect, but they actually do get into an assessment of instructional strategies by teachers, and these are student-reported observations of what kind of strategies are used in their classrooms, which again is fairly interesting. So we're going to pick a subject, and we'll go with science, and then we get offered a grade. And again, these are the testing grades, 4th, 8th, and 12th. I'm going to pick 12th grade. And you can choose from different scales. I'm going to go for the overall science scale. I don't have, for my question, I'm not really interested in breaking it down by subdomain of science. And down here, you can specify your group. You can do, you can look at the whole nation, which includes private schools, or you can do just the public schools. I'm actually going to go down here into region and pick the Northeast, since that's where we are. And this would, you can click on details to get more information about any of these items. Like for here, instance, it tells you what states are included in the Northeast. Okay, so that's set. I've got 12th grade science. We're going to pull up the overall science scale score and specify just for the northeastern states. Click on select variables to add more specificity. And if you scroll down here, you can see there are a number of different things here. We've got student factors, which are broken out right here. If you click on this, it closes it up. Click on it, it opens it back out. These are the different levels you can break out student information by. Got race and ethnicity, we've got ELL status, parent educational level, disability. I'm just interested in gender right now, so we're going to break it out that way. And then if you go down here and look at school factors, underneath school factors, there are student factors, particular school. See these, and these go even deeper. And if you follow through these arrows, you can see you can pull out a lot more specific information. I'm going to go backwards because I'm not really interested in the student factors at that level. Not right now. Look at some of the other factors here. Instructional content and practice. That's what I'm looking for. You can explore what's in here. So if we open this up, there are options under curriculum, course offerings, and modes of instruction and classroom activities. And that's where I'm going to go. Open this up. You can see these are all the different things that they ask both teachers and students. And the data here that's most interesting is the data from the students, which is what we're seeing. This is how the student, this is the information the students report about what happens in their class. And if we click on one of these, so for instance, the first one, design a science experiment. Click on details. So we can see here was the item, the question. In your science class this year, how often do you design a science experiment? And we can see it's student-reported data. And this is the scale that they used. And this is the same scale they use for all of these items. They basically just, the students are reporting back how often this happens in their classroom. And if I scroll down through here, what I'm kind of interested in actually is looking for indicators of inquiry-based teaching in the science classroom, which is really being pushed by most of the organizations and experts in the know, is what we really need to be doing a lot more with science for any number of factors, is inquiry-based instruction. I'm going to look for indicators of that. Now I know I've already looked through this and there isn't a specific item that says that, but I'm going to look for one that might be a little bit of an approximation, something that would really be consistent with inquiry-based learning. There are several here that look like they might kind of work. I like this one. Find different ways to solve a problem. Let's click on details and look at the full question. In your science class this year, how often do you figure out different ways to solve a problem? A science problem. That's something that we're typically doing in an inquiry-based setting. So I'm going to look at that one. I'm going to select that one. And so the only thing extra I added here was to break it out by gender and break it out according to the answers to this question. So we can click Edit Reports right down here, and that's going to add in that information. And this is what we're going to see. We're going to be given 3 different reports. One that's the overall science scale score, broken down by gender. One that's the overall science scale score, broken down by the student reports on using that instructional strategy. And then a cross-tabulation which puts all of those things together, but 3 separate reports. You can click over here if you want to see a preview of what that report is going to look like. So let's look at the one that's the last one, which is the one we're really interested in, all of it together. It's not going to show us the data, but it's going to show us how the table will be set up. So this is what it'll look like when it comes back filled in. We've got males and females, and we have their average scale scores with a standard error reported. And we're going to have those broken down by how often they reported that their teacher had them find different ways to solve a problem in their class. From never or hardly never all the way down to every day or almost every day. All right, let's close this. And then we just click on Build Reports to get our information. And what we see here is the first report, which is pretty simple. It was 2009 testing year for the Northeast. There's the male average scale score and the female. Very, very close. Most likely statistically insignificant, that difference on a scale score. But let's see what happens when we look at it a little bit more deeply. So let's, report 2 was the testing scale scores just broken down by, the gender piece wasn't factored in, and they just did it according to the instructional strategy. We do see some interesting trends here. We see a steady progression up, an increase of the score according to how often, the more this inquiry-based strategy was used, the higher the scale score gets for the students. There's no significant difference clearly between 166 and 167, but if we compare 167 or 166 to 152, then maybe. You can see right here, later there's going to be an option to do a significance test and also regression, which we talked about before. Again, just like with the iPad's data, I'm not going to go into that right now because we haven't really covered what those are, but we'll come back to this and look at how to do these different tests within the program. Okay, so let's look at report 3, which was, the cross-tab report 1, which is really what we're looking for. So what do we have here? We have, again, the 2009 data for 12th grade science broken down between males and females, average scale scores, but we also have that broken apart according to their report of the frequency of using the strategy of finding different ways to solve a problem. And look what we have. We see that same trend that we saw for the overall sample that wasn't divided along gender lines. We see an increase both for males and females with the use of the strategy. The more often it's used, the higher the scale score goes. With males, it goes from 154 when it's hardly ever used, steadily up to 173 when not. Now, Off the top of my head, I don't know what that means in terms of an overall outcome on NAEP. I would have to go back to the um, the first area that we went into and look for the information on the assessment and pull up the scale score. Again, it's that code book type information where we learn more about it. And whatever database you use, find out where that stuff is so you can most accurately interpret what's happening here. So you can have a good idea of what does it really mean in terms of what the student can do to have a 173 as opposed to a 154 on the scale. Now, if we go over and look at the females, we see a steady increase as well, but it actually plateaus off halfway through and remains steady at 163. We don't see the level of value added. Again, without being able to interpret these scales, we're not sure what that means, but we do see some differences here, which may be indicative of something. At first blush, without looking at any other variables, and it could be that there's some other variable that's coming in from left field that helps account for this difference. But if it was just what we're looking at here, we'd kind of have to conclude that, very tentatively conclude, rather, not conclude, speculate would be a better word, that maybe this inquiry-based strategy is benefiting males in the classroom more than it is females. Perhaps the inquiry-based instructional approach benefits them more than females. But again, we'd have to really have some more information, but it gives us a clue, an indication that, hey, there's a difference here. We might want to explore that further if we're interested in this question of differential achievement based upon gender in secondary science classrooms. And remember, when we're talking 12th grade, we're talking about kids that are moving right into college too. So we've got post-secondary implications here in terms of placements and appropriate instructional approaches to use in the early college years with students. If you look right here, so those are our 3 reports. If you look right here, there's an Export Reports button. If you click on that, you can export the reports that you created in a variety of different formats. Here's Excel right here. So you could export it in that format to your computer and incorporate that into a spreadsheet. Now, this isn't really spreadsheet data, so you might not want to have it in a spreadsheet. You might just want to have a copy of these reports, these tables in Word or a PDF and just include them in your paper, just like that. Okay, I'm going to click Cancel. Okay, so that's really about it. Again, this is the first level of kind of pulling at the data. When we get a little bit more sophisticated, and you guys are going to get there in just a couple of weeks, we're going to be able to do significance testing and, depending on the data, perhaps a regression as well, to be able to say more complex things and make more confident conclusions about the data that we're looking at. Before we leave here, I want to just remind you, I'm going to go right back out here to the very beginning of where we were. Actually, past the Data Explorer, back here to the front page. For any of these databases, go into the information about the assessments here, right here. If you click on the main NAEP assessments right here, you can go into more information about any of them and learn more about, for instance, the scales that are used, the type of items that they're asking, the assessment strategies. These are things that you want to know in order to be able to interpret the results better. Okay, so a great tool here. I use some really simple variables, as you can see. You could make it a bit more complex. When you first trying these out, keep it simple, just so you can get a feel for how they work. And then when you find one that you kind of like, then try to get a little bit more fancy with it, with how you do it. Okay, that's it for the NAEP Data Explorer. Until next time.